Okay, so I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon or this morning if you are on the West Coast. My name's Sean. I'm here with Binary Works. We're going to be covering whatchamacallit, Drupal compliance going into 2026. Just so you know that this meeting is being recorded. So if you have any questions, please feel free to hit the chat button. Enter those in the chat. We'll be monitoring it throughout this webinar. And also, a copy of this recording will be sent out after. If I can, if anyone could just give me a thumbs up, let me know that my audio is coming through okay. I'd appreciate it. And with that, everyone should be placed on mute with their cams off. So as I said, if you have any questions, please use that chat button. We will be monitoring it there and moving forward. And as I said today, we're going to be talking about your website versus the ADA compliance, know where to look and how to fix it. Some major changes are happening this month in April. So it's a technical remediation guide for government Drupal sites. It says, 95.9% of sites with WCAG failures. So 56 is the average number of errors per page. And there's over 5,000 federal ADA lawsuits from 2025. So my name is Sean. I'm head of sales here at Binary Works, and I'm joined with Karthik. It's a little bit about us. Okay, excellent. So today we're going to talk about what changes are happening in April and the impact and the penalties. So as you know, the primary change taking effect on April 24th, 2026 is a new federal mandate under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This rule requires state and local government entities serving populations of 50,000 or more to ensure their website content and mobile applications are fully comply with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So for those using Drupal, this means moving beyond general accessibility best practices and meeting the strictly enforceable legal standard for all digital materials. So there's some key compliance requirements. The new rule mandates that all digital content must be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Specific technical requirements include alternative testing, making sure all information images have meaningful alt text describing the content. For example, like a map icon of a shaded tree over a picnic table. Keyboard navigation, sites must be fully navigable via keyboard only, as many users with motor disabilities cannot use a mouse. Color contrast, text, and interactive controls must have a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1 against their background. Captions and transcripts. So video content and time-based media must include synchronized captions. And accessibility documents, PDFs, and other digital forms must meet the same WCAG 2.1 AA standards. Agencies are encouraged to replace PDFs with native web pages where possible. So who must comply and when, you might be thinking? So the Department of Justice set phased deadlines based on population size. So as of April 24, 2026, governments with public institutions, including schools and universities serving 50,000 people, and then April 26, 2027, next year, smaller jurisdictions with fewer than 50,000 people and all special district governments, for examples like utility or trash districts. And this is just giving you a layout then, kind of like the before and after of what that looks like. So before April 24th, WCAG violation, and before it was a compliance gap. Now each violation is going to be a federal civil rights violation. Before April 24th, you were expected to make good faith efforts. Now after, you have to show that it's been documented and proven that you took those efforts. Before, less enforcement was weighted on complaints. After April 24th, the DOJ will be investigating any open complaints. An investigation will open on any complaints that they receive. Before April 24th, the proactivity scanning was voluntary. Now there's 3 enforcement channels that are active. And you can see that the penalties are going to be heavy, and it's going to vary depending on where you live. So Colorado, you could see a $3,500 per violation. Minnesota, it's only $500. California, you could get statutory damages. And in New York, it's uncapped damages. So you really want to do your research on where you're located, what those are, but more importantly, meet those deadlines so you don't have to worry about any of these damages or these violations. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Karthik, who will talk about why Drupal accumulates accessibility debt differently.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sean. That was a great overview of the things happening around the WCAG federal, kind of a law. So yeah, so this I mean, I'm going to focus mostly from the technical side. If you're using a Drupal website, what needs to be taken care to avoid these kind of penalty shoots on because of the accessibility issues. So we are going to talk about the key pointers, starting with the contributor modules. Like even if your theme is fully accessible, the Drupal modules can still create accessibility problems because all these modules generate their own HTML. Like when I say contributed modules, it includes like web forms, views, facets of paragraphs, even date pickers, and then even the commerce modules. Each of these outputs their own HTML and may override accessibility behavior, and even it may ignore theme accessibility patterns. So like for one real-time example is like we have seen cases where the theme was fully accessible, but the web form module created unlabeled fields, which instantly created dozens of accessibility violations on the background. Okay. So the mitigation here is like every module update, we have to do a potential regression test suite. Every time you update a Drupal module, the accessibility behavior can change, even if the update wasn't meant directly to affect accessibility. Okay. So that is what it is like, but module updates can change even the HTML structure, modify ARIA attributes, and introduce JavaScript behaviors. So, we have to make sure when we update the modules, every module has to be thoroughly tested for regression test suites. To add on, just to give you some understanding, like we are also recording this webinar, so at the end of this call, we'll also be sending you all the presentation as well as a webinar recording link, and we also are offering a free audit of your websites, complimentary audits. So if you're interested, you can also avail the complimentary audit on the WCAG guideline side. Okay. And so I'll continue from where I left. The third part is content publishing. Like it's not just the HTMLs or the theme, the contents also creates accessibility issues. It's a content editor. So, an analysis says the content editors are who work every day on the website are most likely to create accessibility issues on a Drupal site. The common mistakes are like skipping all text, or uploading like inaccessible PDF files, or using the header tags incorrectly. All those things contributes for accessibility issues when you publish a content. Okay. And the fourth important thing is the third-party integrations. So Drupal always has like lots of third-party integrations like payment portals, permit systems, mapping tools, etc. Lots of embedded in Drupal, outside Drupal. So if your websites or embeds all these third-party tools, you are though it is outside, but you are still responsible for their accessibility issues. Okay. So we would highly recommend. So the most of these third party tools will submit a legal kind of a reality called VPAT, which stands for voluntary product accessibility template, which covers their product and not the integration with our website. Okay, so that is a common misconception. Like if you have a VPAT of a third party integration, we may assume that because of the third party integration as a VPAT, so we are covered on the accessibility side, but that is not the real use case, because it only covers the product, not the integration that we have done. So integrations can break accessibility, change the behavior flow, or navigation to the website, and it can create lots of accessibility violations. So, like for example, we have seen, especially in uh, city websites embeds, or allow or permit like a portal iframes, but keyboards cannot enter into iframe. And someone is accessing the website through keyboard, iframes cannot go into those. Sorry, the keyboard navigation doesn't take the user to the iframe section. So, which means that particular iframe section becomes non-accessible for a user who is using just a keyboard, and that is a kind of a from the violation perspective, that is considered as a denial of service, and that is a serious penalty. Okay, so we have to be very careful when we are using third-party integrations. So whenever we integrate with third party, we have to thoroughly test the integration for all the accessibility issues that might arise because of that particular integration. Again, we highly recommend whenever you are doing a module update or a content update, or a third-party integration, so thorough regression testing across, the connected modules or connected contents, or even like from, if it is a third party integrations, we would highly recommend using a full kind of a regression shoot across the website. I'll stop here for any questions. Okay, I'll move on. The next important thing is like what are the common universal, not just for Drupal, WCAG websites or errors that happens across the board for all the web applications or websites, right? So the common error is the low color contrast error. The color contrast means how readable text is against its background, right? So if the text color is too light or blends with the background, it becomes very difficult to read. It with the low vision, people cannot read it, and every normal users even struggle on mobile devices. Okay, for example, we have seen most of the common design issues like a light gray text on a white background. That is the most common kind of color contrast issue that we have talked about, and like it's sometimes the designers might feel it is good from their perspective, but it will fail the accessibility rules. So on a Drupal specific side, we always seen that branding colors are these issues arises whenever you apply branding colors and that doesn't match with the design patterns that you're putting in. So or when you're using custom themes, and if you're trying to use a marketing colors, those kind of issues always contribute to for this low color contrast issue. So as Sean was explaining earlier, whenever you're wanted to the fix is basically to use a 4.5 is to 1 kind of a contract ratio. There's a minimum contract ratio, and there are also tools which we will be discussing at the end of the session, like Wave, Contrast Analyzer, where you can always test with those tools for low contrast issues on your website. Okay. And the second important thing when it comes to WCAG failure is the missing image alt text. This seems to be a very simple kind of a fix. Like, whenever you add image, add alt text. That is also will help you on the SEO side. But this is a very common issue that have been addressed. I mean, we have seen most of the content creators miss to do that. And every image must have an alternative text because screen readers cannot see images. So these screen readers will read and understand that image only through the alternate text. So it's a simple fix. Like you can also in Drupal, if you go to the media library and go to the image field and set all text as a required field, right? So when you set all text as a required field, so that will solve this problem most likely. So that is, as I said, this is looks like a simple issue, but that is where we have, from the accessibility, failure perspective, we have seen many, content creators of, neglect or they forget to do alt text, and that caused, accessibility issues to the website. Excuse me. And the third part is like missing form fields, which is again a critical risk. And like what it means is like when form inputs must be always connected with label associations, right? So if you're not connecting, like a form with a label it association, it will break silently at the module level. Okay. So like the contribute modules like web form, views filters, commerce checkout often override this form API and breaking label connection size on the background. So this is again will connect, users cannot fill forms. This will create a kind of a service denial kind of an issue where users will not be able to fill out a form or submit a form. If users cannot complete a form, that service itself will become completely inaccessible. Okay, so that is though looks like minor, but we have to make sure that every form is associated with a label. And the other important thing is, putting empty links. Like links must describe what they do and where they are headed to, or what is the next step they are going to, where they are going. Like common problems when you have a social media icon or a search icon or a download icon or a read more button. So we have to label them and explain what it does. So that is a very critical thing. Again, like this is for screen readers and also for people who have certain issues on looking into images. So we cannot assume people know, everyone knows the meaning of that icon. So we have to put a text or a label associated with those icons. Okay. And the next important thing is like empty buttons. Again, this is buttons must have accessible names. So like common Drupal issues are like we have seen these issues very common in mobile menus, accordion toggles, or search buttons and carousel navigations. So make sure you have text or associated with all those buttons. If it is a search, explain along with the search icon, put along with the search button. Yeah, we have to put a expanded search with search embedded in that particular button. And similarly for all other navigation controls, we have to put that text associated with that. And icons only, or like this is one of the frequently accessibility failures we have seen. Like we assume most of the times all these icons or buttons are easily understandable by the audiences, or but from the when the website has been read through a screen reader or some other screen reading application like a bot, it definitely has a failure. And all these things will not only improve the accessibility side of your website, it will also improve the SEO aspect of your website as well. On-page SEO impact will also be improved when you have these kind of text icons added, or overall, if you're improving the readability or text with text, alternating with all those buttons and images. And the last one in this slide I'm going to explain is the missing document language. This is one language attribute, whether that particular website is, is in English or in a Spanish or whatever language you're putting the, website or putting the content. So we have to mention the HTML page must define the language. Without this, the screen readers often use wrong pronunciations. Okay. So make sure this, again, this is a simple change, and this is one, if you miss it in one place, it will be affecting the entire website. It will have a site-wide impact. It's just a one line of code that would have a site-wide impact. So we always recommend putting or defining the language on the HTML page. Okay. Any questions? I'll move on to the next one. And these are so the previous slide we talked about, common WCAG failures, and now we are going to discuss about the very specific Drupal failures that we have seen. And also these are some, failures you cannot, you always use, like apps or tools to, to test this. You need to have some kind of manual testing to understand these failures. So there are AI tools that are come up in the market, but still it requires a kind of a manual intervention to make sure to do a thorough testing here. Okay. Um, cannot so every accessibility issue cannot be detected automatically. So manual testing is required. So, first thing is keyword traps in contrib widgets. A keyboard trap happens when a user enters a component like a date picker, for example, or a pop-up, and when they cannot exit that window or exit that particular space using the keyboard itself. They are stuck in that particular process. Okay, so they cannot continue with the next step. That becomes again a denial of service. So real world, Drupal examples, as I said, like, date pickers, pop-ups, autocomplete fields, and also drop-down filters or bootstrap models, even like infinite scroll, which keeps on scrolling. So those kind of things have to be addressed. So we have to test each widget and for keyboard test sequences. So we have to tab and do a tab. It's a kind of a manual effort consuming test, but there is right now there are tools that I mean very less tools that does it like automatically. So we have to tab into widgets, press escape, press shift plus tab, use arrow keys. So we have to do the entire navigation through keyboard manually, and it's a very critical text. And we have to audit every interactive contrib widget to and once we have identified the issues, we have to patch the module or replace the widget, or we have to, in any cases, we have to, at least we have to fix it using a HTML fix. So that's a very critical kind of a keyword trap error we have seen commonly for accessibility failures. And the next important thing is focus indicators suppressed by CSS. So what it means, keyboard users rely on a visible focus indicator to know where they are on the particular screen or a page. If focus is hidden, user cannot navigate. So, like for example, this is again a simple kind of fixes. Like instead of using outline is with a none kind of a value, we have to when you put outline with none value, it removes the keyword focus. So we have to replace it with the actual value for outline. Okay. So like in outline with 0, replace with 2px solid focus styles so that it has a minimum 3.3:1 contract ratio. Okay, so the focus indicators are it really tells the screen readers where the focus should be for the end user. Okay, and then inaccessible PDF documents. So, like this is a very common use case of failures for government websites where you have like untagged PDFs which have no document structure and no not or form fields for screen readers. So PDF must have a structure. It should have a reading order. It should have labels and it should have headings. Like we should consider PDF as another pages. Okay, without that, if you just have an untagged PDF, screen readers cannot read them completely. Okay. So, like for example, we have seen, in government websites, they upload meeting minutes or permit forms or policy documents, even reports. If you don't create a proper structures and headings, these kind of screen readers will fail in reading the content of those websites. Okay. And then how to fix this? We highly recommend using Adobe Acrobat Pro, which automatically adds reading orders, headings, alt text, and form labels on document titles. Okay. And also for all these things, you have to add alt text in the media library as well. Okay. And the last part in the slide is improper heading, heading structures for blocks and views. So heading must follow order, like H1 should be followed by H2, H2 to heading tag should be followed to H3. And if you, so whenever, rearrange this order. For example, in Drupal, when you generate headings independently, like for blocks and views, if you're generating it independently, it would result in multiple H1 tags. It will skip levels from H2, it will directly go to H4 or H6, right? And that will create broken structure to the page. So screen readers use heading to navigate pages. So if you don't have like proper heading orders, the screen readers quite often gets confused, and this will also cause accessibility failures for your website. So to fix this, we have to audit all the blocks and views and templates and adjust the heading levels. There are automated scanners can detect these failures, but it cannot detect every structure, heading structure. So there also needs to be a manual kind of testing needs to be done with keyboard and screen readers if they're essential. Any questions there? Okay. Sounds good. So, so that is like so the next thing is like we will talk about now that we have identified the major accessibility risks, and the next big question is like what how do we fix this? Or so we have created a kind of a plan. So there are if you're a big government website, again like the timeline is very short, April 24, which technically is not possible, but still we can fast track it as quickly as possible. So we have created a kind of a kind of a process here. So for example, we can identify all the P1 issues, which are highest risk items that prevent users from accessing the services, like the keyword trap remediation, form label association, and focus indicator restorations. These we considered as like P1 issues. So we test, like for example, on the keyboard side, we can use some automated test tools and manual testing to automatically test every interactive element to make sure users can enter and exit only using keyboard. Okay. And then must be able to enter, like for example, they should be able to enter into a widget and exit a widget or continue the navigation from that particular aspect. Okay. So that would be our first priority, and the second would be like form label associations. So every form label, as I was explaining, every form field must have a label and connected correctly, not just visually. Okay. So that has to be tested real quickly. We can use browser accessibility inspectors and label associations, so that we can make sure that they are visible. Their label associations are invisible visually. Okay, and we also need to the Drupal modules to look for in this case is mostly web forms, views, and any exposed filters and commerce checkout options wherever you have forms. Okay, and the focus indicator restoration is mainly for screen readers, and so keyboard users must see where they are like on the page. Without focus indicator, navigation fails. So we have to search CSS for outline equal to none, and we have to replace it with outline equal to 0. Okay, these removes I mean, whenever you put none, it removes the keyboard focus indicators. So we have to replace that with also we have to make it replace with these kind of contrast minimum, and we have to test for all interactive elements like links, buttons, inputs, and widgets and accordions. Okay. So this would be in an item to as would be the priority one items that we would be auditing first. And then we will move on to the P2 or priority two items, which is mostly related to structural and content fixes. Okay, like for example, the alt text which I explained in the media library, like we have to make sure we have to make this alt text always accessible for the user. So go ahead, I mean, not accessible. We have to make it a mandatory field so that every user, whenever you add a content, it always kind of so it automatically it asks the user to put an alt text for all the media files. Okay, and then we also recommend using edit deploy editorially module. So this is a very practical tool. It checks the content before publishing. It flags missing alt text or heading errors or bad links or color contrast issues, and it tells you what needs to be fixed. Okay, and then restrict the heading levels in editor. So like this prevents heading chaos. Remove h1 from editor, restrict to h2 to h4 only, so those kind of jumps can be avoided. So prevent editors overriding pages heading hierarchy. So that is something that we can set it at the CK editor toolbar. On the configurations, we can set it up so that they cannot skip the heading hierarchy. Okay, and accessible link text policy. So we recommend, putting configure link it or custom link validation to warn a user. Instead of just putting click here or read more or a download button, we can explain what it does. Okay, what like when they click here, what would be the next step when they, so what they're going to read more. So those kind of accessible link text or custom link validation can be added. Okay. And the next fixes are all related to code level fixes. So the heading structure audit. So audit all templates that includes your blocks, views, and sidebars, and fix wherever you have like multiple H1 tags or skipped heading levels. We have to do a code level fix. And for the PDF remediation priority, this is especially as I was explaining it to you for government websites where you upload content, we have to have proper structure to all the PDF documents. So use Adobe Acrobat Pro or similar tools so that it automatically sets the reading orders, alt text, form labels, document languages, and titles. Okay. And as for the integration piece, like even if your vendor has a VPAT engagement, but we still would like to analyze the integration piece and if it is causing any accessibility issues. So that has to be tested in a regression tools, so so regression side. And ARIA role audit on contrib. So you can use axe dev tools on views, facets, paragraphs, and fix missing roles and area label on dynamic components. Okay. Don't so that will that will also be, it is more of auditing on the area contribute modules. So area basically stand for accessible rich internet application. It's a set of HTML attributes that help screen readers and assistive technologies to understand the web content, especially dynamic or interactive components. Okay. So these are some tools to be looked for, like for the when for auditing accessibility as well as on the Drupal module side. The Wave browser extension is a very good tool. The first tool our team uses, so it detects color contrast problems, missing alt text, empty links, and missing labels, and also missing language settings, where which we can use it and fix our website. And we also recommend Axe DevTools. So this is more developer focused, which Axe detects ARIA errors, heading structure issues, missing accessibility roles, and also landmark problems. And it also integrates into your CI/CD, your pipelines as well. Okay. And the third tool we recommend is the color contrast analyzer, which is mainly primarily focuses on color readability. Okay, it precisely analyzes the contrast ratios for any color pair on a screen, and lets us know. It will let us know what needs to be fixed. Okay, and the last one is NVDA, and which is basically integrates with Firefox. It is a real screen reader experience on your live site. For it is irreplaceable for actual UX testing. Okay, for accessibility screen reader testing, you can use NVDA plus Firefox. Okay, NVDA is the screen reader, and Firefox is the which is the browser which is it is compatible with. Okay. And other modules are editorially, which I explained already, which also checks, it also does the content level accessibility checker built into the editor, and it flags all the all text issues, headings, links before publishing. And you can also use accessible menus, which adds ARIA roles, keyboard navigations to the Drupal menus. And we can also use CK Editor Accessibility Checker and block ARIA landmark rules, HTML accessible Ajax and media library alt text. So these are some important Drupal modules we recommend using it for any website to avoid accessibility issues. Any questions so far? So the next part is the last part is the priority three issues, which is basically, doing a complete regression testing on every contributor module update whenever you do a contribute module update. And the minimum testing needs to be done as keyboard navigation checks plus scan screen readers. And then we have to integrate this into your existing deployment checklist so that and put this as part of a documented regression test suite. And accessibility statement management. So whenever you do these kind of accessibility test, we always update and date stamp after every remediation sprint, and name specific limitations, assign a named owner accountable for that accuracy. And we also need to publish this accessibility has been done. And we highly recommend doing a quarterly monitoring of accessibility issues for high traffic service pages. Okay. And manual keyboard testing on significantly changed templates is also recommended. And monthly editorial report will also give you content level violation accumulations. Okay. And the annual full WCAG 2.1 AA audit with the dated report will give you a kind of a document where you can submit to any violation agencies that are reporting your website. Okay. Having said that, we have come to the end of the session. So, as I said, we can do a Drupal WCAG audit as a complimentary once, and then give you a remediation action on Drupal, what needs to be fixed. And then we also have an ongoing compliance program we can put you into that. So, if any one of you are interested, we'll be sending this webinar along with the link to submit a complimentary audit form, which we where through which we once we receive it, we can have a separate one-to-one meeting, and we can do the complimentary WCAG audit for your website. So we generally do a 90-day compliance program. That is what is highlighted here. Starting from self-assessment, audit, and P1 issue fixing, P2 issue fixing, and finally P3 issue fixing, and a continuous monitoring on a monthly, quarterly, and an annual basis as well. Okay, sounds good. That concludes this session. Any questions? Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll be sharing this webinar link, the presentation along with the recording following up this webinar, and we'll meet you in some other webinar. And as I said, if you're interested, you can reach out to us for the complimentary audit. We would be happy to conduct a one-to-one meeting and take the audit from there. Okay. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks everyone for joining. See you in another webinar.